Welcome to Friday Tech Bites. My name is Karinne Bessette, and I'm a technologist here at Veeam Software on the product strategy team. We're going to be talking about Vol License, and there's actually no one better to be here with me than Chris Spencer. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Spencer, Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Veeam.
So where are you coming in from today?
Austin, Texas.
So that brings up a great point. Everyone, I already see some coming in through the chat here, but tell us where you are. So far, we have us up here on the map. It looks like Indiana, Georgia, Ohio, of course, for me, Texas for Chris. I think we might have one over in Europe here. Is that Austria? Romania. There it is.
Brazil.
And Brazil. Nice. Egypt? All right, so let's kick it off with the primary reason we're here. There's a change coming, isn't there?
Yeah, it's something that's been in the works for nearly 4 years, and we've communicated this out to our customers back in November. Basically, what we're doing here is we're accelerating our ability to deliver more capabilities to you, our customers. By expanding more of our capabilities across what we see as an ever increasing hybrid ecosystem, providing more backup flexibility for your workloads so you can change and move as you wish, and then further getting away from what we like to call workload specific licenses, or something that can only function for one type of workload. We at Veeam want to help you protect all of your data across all of your workloads, whether that be on-prem, in the cloud, virtual, physical, applications, you name it. And to do that, we announced something called the Veeam Universal License back in 2019. And so basically 3 years since that time, and now we're looking at what's next. And what's next for us is to do an official end of sale of our per CPU socket licenses. And this will happen on July 1st. And as I mentioned, we communicated this to customers back in November. And there have been a few other rolling reminders and tips and tricks that have been extended to the customer base as well.
You make a really good specification there. This is end of sales, not end of contracts or end of anything else. We're just not going to be selling this kind of license anymore. So you're still going to be able to use what you have. So we don't want to scare anyone. Now, if you have any questions throughout this entire presentation, drop them wherever you're listening from, and we'll get those relayed back to us and make sure Chris down here answers those questions accurately. Now, there's some top questions that we already have prepared here on the next slide. And the first one, and I say one of the most important, is what does this mean to me? So, Chris, can you go over what this would mean to the individual company, the small business, the large business who might still be using some of those socket license?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, the answer is in most cases, it means nothing. And what I mean by that is, if you saw on the previous slide, customers have 3 options. And their first option is do absolutely nothing. That really does apply here. If you're happy with your licenses, you have enough, you're protecting what you need, you don't need to change or grow or move from protecting VMware or Hyper-V on premises to something else, then your option is literally do nothing. Just keep using what you're using. We're not taking anything away. And more specifically, when we look at those customers who have socket-based licenses, most of the time, and the data that we see is over 90% of those customers, when they go through a hardware refresh cycle, that hardware is more capable. They can do more with that piece of hardware than they could in the past. So generally speaking, we see very few folks who need to purchase more of the socket-based licensing. So what does it mean for you? Most likely nothing. If you are going from on-premises to cloud, then it means something to you. You already know that's the case, and you are already aware that the Veeam Universal License, or VUL, is what's required for a lot of the workloads outside of just VMware and Hyper-V.
So that is a great first question. If I'm just staying in my own data center, And just to reiterate, and I don't plan on moving to the cloud yet. It's not in my plan yet. And I don't plan on deploying any more machines. I don't need to do anything right now other than make sure my perpetual is still there, correct? For sockets.
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect.
You don't need to do anything else.
But
And
if
that,
I'm maybe moving to NAS or other types of workloads, it would be a good consideration.
if you're, yeah, if you're seeing the need to protect NAS, enterprise apps, AWS, Azure, or Google workloads that are running in the cloud, physical workloads, Windows, Linux, Mac, Unix, you name it, any of those things, Nutanix hypervisors, Red Hat virtualization hypervisors, any of those, if you need those, you're going to have that VUL license anyway. And you can have a socket license and a VUL license centrally managed in the same environment. But when you do that, the only caveat is that socket license has to be used for VMware and Hyper-V. You can't protect some VMware and Hyper-V with sockets and some VMware and Hyper-V with VUL. So that's the one big caveat that's been in place since 2019. So nothing new there.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at the map while we let some of these questions spool in here because we are starting to light up. We'll start off with the United States, it looks like here. Minneapolis, we have Kentucky, Florida joining us, Pennsylvania, and Wyoming. I think I got them all there. And then we have an addition of Sweden, France, and Germany on the board. It always seems like it starts to fill out when those bigger countries start to populate in. Uruguay and Ecuador next. And then we have Kenya, Lebanon, and India on the board over here in. Yep. Now we have some questions that have come in. We sort of started to answer this question with the previous question is if you purchase a universal license, will they work with your socket license? I think it's important to clarify if you are maybe deploying extra workloads such as agents out there, you could purchase additional VUL license, but you can't have a hybrid license environment of your hypervisors with both VUL and your old socket license. You got to choose one or the other moving forward. But if you manage other workloads in the cloud, in addition, you can buy extras.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
And you have some calculator or something that can help you evaluate if you'll win or lose in the conversion to VULs, or is it something that they should get in contact with maybe the renewals department and it's a case-by-case scenario?
It's definitely a case-by-case scenario. It depends on obviously the number of workloads that you're looking to protect. As we're going from a per unit of hardware metric that varies. I mean, you might have a very powerful server or a very tiny server. So it really depends on what your environment looks like. So we recommend you contact the renewals team. They have the calculators, they have the capability to walk you through what you need, depending on what edition level you're on, what remaining portion of contract that you have, and so forth and so on. So all that stuff is available. Contact the renewals team; they will help you out, and they are empowered with some considerable discounts on how to get you locked into hopefully not spending more than you're spending right now on an annual basis.
Thank you for clarifying that, Chris. Let's head to our next question that we had prepared here. It's one of the questions I actually had to begin with. How will this work when V11, V12, V13 kind of start rolling out down the line? Can I keep using these sockets?
Yeah, so good question. If July 1st, 2022 is our end of sale, can I keep using the existing socket licenses? Absolutely. Yeah, we're just not selling any more of them. You can keep using them. You can use the capabilities that they have for your existing editions. When we release V12, the capabilities of V12 that are applicable to socket-based licenses, applicable to VMware and Hyper-V specifically, it will still work. V13, I'm sure that will work as well. So this is not an end of life. This is just an end of sale. Again, as we mentioned, your options here, if you're happy with what you have, you can totally do nothing. You can stock up on more sockets, you can stock up on more VUL, or you can choose to migrate those socket licenses to a more flexible, more feature-rich VUL license. It all depends on what you need to do. So again, just because we're end of selling on July 1st, it does not mean that this is the end of life. Those licenses will still work. You can still renew your maintenance. You can still get upgrades, still get all of the capability there.
So one of the things that I know customers had a great benefit from was getting the perpetual license so that they could continue with the versions, or doing the CapEx license depending on what their business need were. Is that going away? Are you still going to be able to do the different options, or are you going to have to purchase all at once? How's that work?
Yeah, great question. Is perpetual transactions going away? And the answer to that is no. Now, we're in an industry where it is increasingly moving more and more to subscription, and the VUL license was launched primarily as subscription, and that's where we see most of our transactions happening today. But in July of 2020, we did launch publicly the ability to purchase the VUL license in a perpetual fashion. So CapEx, meaning you pay up front with ongoing annual maintenance. That is still an option. We don't expect that to go away at all. Now, the per socket license that we sold for so long, that was perpetual only. So that per socket license will no longer be sold. But VUL can be transacted either subscription or perpetual. You have to choose one or the other. We're not gonna sell you a little bit of this and a little bit of that in the same shared account. But you can definitely purchase perpetually if that's a requirement in your industry, in your company, or for your budgeting requirements.
So we have another question from Danielle that's listening in. It's about the socket client and having mixed license when it comes to or VCSP.
Yeah.
Is theirs going to be different?
VCSP is a different transaction. You think of that as a rental license. You're working with one of our service providers. The service provider is offering a service to the end customer. Now, we may have customers that are running some of their own stuff and are leveraging service providers to run Veeam for them. You're not going to be mixing those particular contracts or accounts together. So there is no mixed scenario with some VULs, some sockets, and some rental together. Those will be separate contracts.
All right. Well, the next question that we had here is, are you going to be forced to change? And I feel like with everything we've talked about so far, we've got a clear understanding you're not forced to change anything. It all depends on what you're going to need for your future, how you plan on deploying your environment. And is you're just going to stay in the data center for now, or if you're moving up to other types of workloads, including like Kubernetes or something else in your environment?
Yeah. So we Veeam are not forcing a customer to make any change here. Again, if it's in your plan to do a hardware refresh or to change from physical to virtual to cloud to whatever, that's we want to be able to support you in those moves. And that's the benefit of the VUL license, in that the license itself can move no matter what environment, no matter what workload type. I'm getting a little ahead of myself on this one, but we're not requiring that you move away from sockets to VUL. Do we want you to? We think it's in your best interest as transformation happens. Whether you're thinking about cloud, you're already in cloud, or maybe you're in the cloud and you're looking to move back. Customers need that flexibility in their journey, in their IT life cycle. Whatever digital transformation means to a customer, we want to be able to support that. And as we've built out more capabilities in AWS, in Azure, in Google Cloud, for Kubernetes, and for other SaaS deployments, we want to help customers protect their data no matter where it's run. So that's our goal. But we're not forcing anyone to make any change.
So to point out some more information about what VUL is, we did just post out to everyone if you want to check out our chat. This is a great blog post written by one of our experts here. Not me, him. And I want to remind everyone, if you do have any questions about your specific situations, it's a reason that we're here, why we did this entire session is go ahead and pop those in the chat. They'll get fed to us on the background, and we'll make sure to get those answered as best as possible. Moving on to the last question here, why is Veeam making this change? And I think one of the biggest reasons Veeam is making this change is actually the graphic that follows, which is we're covering a lot more types of workloads, and it doesn't just make sense to have a socket license anymore. We need something that makes sense to the environments that we're deploying to. And you can see all from this graphic what's being covered.
Yeah. And Mark, you went to the next slide too soon, but that's all right. Let's go back to our time
that was me. I was hinting at the graphic. I love this graphic. I want to see everyone to see it.
If you go back in your time machine back to 2018, we're working together with our R&D team, with Anton and with others, looking at what's coming next. We knew that, hey, we're doing great protecting VMware and Hyper-V. We have some physical agents that are available, and those are licensed separately. But we knew the future was going to be more stuff, more NAS, more cloud native protection, more enterprise applications, and we knew that a hybrid environment was going to be a requirement for us. So that's when we conceived the Veeam Universal License. We released it in 2019. We made some tweaks to it, and October of 2019 is when the version that we are using today rolled out. So over 2.5 years with the current version, but all of the functionality that we've released in version 9.5 U4, version 10, version 11, version 11A, including all of those clouds. I mean, direct integration with AWS, so you can do cloud native protection of EC2 instances and RDS, Azure, Google, the virtual machines in databases and so forth there. I mean, all of this stuff can be protected with VUL, including all of your major apps. You've got Oracle, your SAP HANA, Postgres, Kubernetes capabilities, and we released NAS in version 10. All of this stuff requires the VUL license, and only the one thing in the upper right corner, vSphere and Hyper-V, can be protected with that socket license. So we wanted to give a more inclusive license option for the customer, so they can protect whatever they need, as opposed to continuing to have to buy a license for VMs, a license for physical, a license for cloud, a license for NAS. We bundled it all together in one. And this is the current state. It's going to continue growing, continue expanding, and so forth. So this is the license we'll be using going forward.
It's a great explanation. Now, we have a question from Mikhail, and it is there a deadline to convert? And I think, if I can clarify that, you can convert anytime you want after the July deadline, but you can't buy any more after the July deadline. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah,
okay.
There isn't a deadline for converting your sockets to VUL. They will not magically disappear on July 1st. You can continue using them. Do we want to encourage conversion? If it makes sense for you in your environment, absolutely. But we're not trying to force anyone down that path too soon. And as we mentioned, we don't have any plans of end of life at this point. And hopefully we won't have to announce that, but we think organically, and we've seen thousands of customers migrating in the past few months. So it's great. We think organically this is going to happen, and it's going to be the right choice for many customers.
That's a great explanation. Do you have any other words of advice that you can think of to give to anyone that's still on the fence about this change that's happening?
Yeah,
it's been around for a while. Just now that we're kind of like, okay, it's time to move, if you can.
Yeah. We're not the first to make this type of change, and in fact, we're one of the last few vendors that are making this change. So many of our competitors have moved to subscription or have launched subscription only, and that has been the only option. So we're not a first mover on this space, and we're not doing anything to punish our customers. But I think the customers just need to ask themselves, are you seriously looking at establishing data protection in the cloud? And if you trust Veeam with your workloads on premises, hopefully you'll trust us with the confidence that we can do that same data protection in the hyperscaler clouds, in your NAS deployments, for your enterprise applications. And we know that the sockets have been, inexpensive for a lot of customers for a long time, and that's why many people bought them. But at this point, it's time to change, and really just ask yourself if it makes sense. Contact the Veeam renewals team. They can work with you on what the right strategy is for your transition. And maybe migrating from sockets to Vol isn't the right answer right now. Maybe you want to time that with a hardware refresh cycle or with a hard or software upgrade. That's completely fine. You have the flexibility to do that.
That's great. So we've answered a lot of questions so far, and they've been really good questions coming in. We covered some of the top questions that we've seen out in the industry. What if someone else has any other questions after this that they think of later? How can they get in contact, or who should they contact?
Reach out to our renewals team for sure.
And I think we can get that link put in the chat directly for anyone, so that they're able to go to www.veeam.com/renewal, not plural, renewal. That should get you to a small form that you can fill out. Once you filled out that form, someone will get in contact with you to cover that. And that actually, I think, answers one of our questions from Thomas. He's asking, how does migrating to Vol work? Can you walk through a little bit of the process after someone gets in contact with the agent, what would happen and what they should expect?
Yeah, basically the question is going to be, what are the number of workloads that you're looking to protect? It's a per workload metric, and a workload can be a virtual machine, an agent, an application, or an increment of NAS, a 500 gigabyte increment of NAS unstructured data. So really, you just need to know the number of workloads that you're looking to protect. So on average, customers are protecting somewhere around 10 virtual machines per CPU socket. So if you have one socket that you're protecting, or two sockets, you just need to count the number of workloads there, and we will transfer it into the Vol plan. And there's nothing secret about that, but every customer is different. Some customers are running very large databases that take up the entire device, and other customers are running tiny VMs and have lots of them. So it really depends.
All right. So, Chris, I thank you for joining us and lending your expert. It's been a great Friday Tech Bites. I do want to talk about what's coming later next week, or actually early next week, starting with Jason Buffington and Dave Russell. They return for episode 82. 82 of Industry Insights. They've been doing this for a while, and they've been doing a lot with that data protection report. You're not going to want to miss. This is part 3 of 4 in a series of breaking down the results and seeing the real gaps that are out there that you should be concerned about. Then next Friday, we have a relook at physical server backups. So physical server backups revisit. It's going to be with Rick Vanover and Kirsten Stoner. They're some of the experts on the physical backup servers. And sometime in early March, we're going to have a customer on with us to give us some information about what their experience was with our company, some things and tips and tricks that you might be interested in as well. Bye.
See you later. Thanks for joining.